Hello friends, Jenkins Dota here, bringing you another Dota 2 video on behalf of DotaAlchemy.com, and this is going to be a patch 7.19 analysis video and a bit of first impressions because I have played a few pubs since this patch was released. So general changes: daily bonus hero changed from 2 mangoes to 1. This was completely crazy, the amount of games you could win just by following the daily bonus hero list. Like, people were legitimately grinding to top 100 by abusing whatever the bonus heroes were that were overpowered. Like, people would pick a Treant Protector or a Crystal Maiden and get the 2 mangoes when they're in the list and just gain a ton of MMR and just follow whatever the list is. So it may seem insignificant to some, but if you're looking to grind MMR, there were people that were definitely abusing this, and it doesn't really make much sense because it's not really a gameplay thing. So I'm kind of glad this was changed. It was way too much. 1 mango is still good. I mean, it's a literally free mango. 2 trees were added in the cliff area below the primary dire jungle shrine. This is just like a bit of a warding change. I played a couple of games and I didn't really notice any new juke paths or anything like that. I think this was just to block a really good ward on the dire side. Hero changes: Abaddon, Mistcoil. I think this hero is getting to the point where he's probably really good. His spells are all really low mana cost, really low cooldown, so they're very efficient. This spell can be used really nicely to harass in the lane, and it's a harass/sustain lane. Also, you can deny yourself, which sends you back to base and allows you to get full mana and health. The only thing is, Ursa's a really strong hero right now, and there's a lot of kind of, Monkey King Ursa counters to this hero. That's the only reason I don't see Abaddon getting picked. And once those heroes get nerfed, I think Abaddon is going to see a lot of gameplay. Ancient Apparition, Ice Vortex, mana cost was reduced. I am seeing a lot more people go for the Ice Vortex plus the Icy Feet combo, and they're just using that to kind of set it up, and then maybe plus some sort of stun. Lowering the mana cost on this is great, just because it might incentivize more people to go for this earlier on, and it kind of abuse that increased magical damage and stuff like that. So this was already a pretty decent build, and this might incentivize more people to do it. But I don't know, I still feel like this hero suffers from the same issues that he had previously, and this change doesn't do much for that. Bloodseeker Thirst bonus rescaled, so instead of 16 at the start, it's 7. Thank fucking God for that, man. I gotta say, as an offlaner, I've been so sick of this hero. Like, somebody's sitting at 90% HP on the map, so he gets an extra 50 damage with the amplification. It just wasn't fair. And then he hits you once and you're 80% health because he hit you for 20% of your HP, and then all of a sudden he hits for 150 instead. Like, it's just insane. So I'm really glad that they nerfed this in the earlier levels, but as you can see, it scales to be the same, so it doesn't hurt his late game. It just hurts his early game, which was a little bit too strong and kind of unfair. It felt like he came online way too early in that laning phase. Talents: the thirst damage was changed to 18%. People didn't really go for that talent anyway, and it's a very small change, so I don't see that changing much. Broodmother Spin Web, the movement speed has been reduced significantly in the earlier levels. That's great because she's obviously way too strong right now, given the fact that she has the second highest win rate in Divine pubs, and she's had like a 40% win rate for her entire existence. So this is a good change to her. I think it was too much, but it doesn't nerf her late game. So I like when they change these heroes such that they're not different from how they are in the late game. If they're a very interesting hero in the late game. The replenish rate, 40 seconds to 45 seconds. That just means that this hero is going to be a little bit less mobile on the map, and it feels like ever since they added it, so you have the web charges, 8 total web charges, you are golden. You're very easy to, like, run across the entire map and reposition your web. So that honestly is a much needed change from that previous change. Centaur base strength increased again. Jesus Christ, how much strength can this hero possibly have? I still feel like, personally, he suffers from the same issues as before. I think he's kind of weak in the lane, takes a little while to come online. However, I do really like the fact that the mana cost on his Stomp now allows him to use it twice in the laning phase. So maybe with base strength being increased, he's going to be pushed over the limit. Crystal Maiden, Crystal Nova has been increased. Pretty insignificantly, only at the first level, which means maybe you'll need a little bit more regen, but that's okay because I think this hero is still good because you come online with the aura and you can sustain the later levels, and people were kind of maxing it anyway. Draw Ranger base strength reduced. She was getting picked a little bit, so it's a pretty insignificant change. Enchantress, Nature's Attendance, mana cost was increased pretty dramatically. That's good. She was spamming that way too much in the laning phase. I think this is a big nerf to her. The later levels of this, you weren't really leveling this up, you're leveling the passive, and they basically changed this so that you want to level it up now, maybe to that second level or something like that, just to get more value out of the mana that it's costing. So I think this hero is still pretty good, but you just can't leave that that heal at level 1 anymore like you could before. Juggernaut, damage has been increased on the spin. That's great for him. He has felt kind of weak for a little while. I'm not sure if this will tip him over the edge, but I thought he was pretty good before. I think he'll be pretty good now. Maybe on the side of, you know, being good as opposed to bad. Necrophos, Reaper Scythe, cooldown increased pretty significantly with the Scepter, which was a big reason people were picking him. The cast point was increased. I don't think that's that big of a deal. Ghost Shroud, magic resistance. So he takes 10% more damage in the Ghost Shroud. I think that makes heroes like Pugna and Batrider way better against him. They already countered him really hard. So I think this hero is pretty shitty now. Maybe we'll see in the International, but it really does feel like these nerfs, like that's a lot. It's a lot to this hero. So I feel like now it justifies you picking the counters, and there's not much he can do about it now. As opposed to before, you'd have such a good hero, it wouldn't matter. Ogre Magi, Fire Blast, damage has been increased. It actually does a lot. I played Ogre Magi earlier today, and this 240 damage seems pretty significant if you get those multicasts. I think this hero is actually at a pretty decent spot, and we'll probably see him get picked up, maybe even as an offlaner because his talents are insane. Outworld Devourer, Sanity's Eclipse, damage multiplier increased slightly. The Essence Aura mana bonus has been increased. I think this is a pretty significant change to him because he's at that threshold right now, or at least he was previous to this patch, where even if you were very farmed, if you had max out on the Essence Aura and max out on the Q, you were not able to sustain the mana cost. So that was just kind of like, it didn't make any sense because that's kind of the point of the hero, right? You get to that point and you can sustain the Arcane Orb, but you couldn't. So this change, maybe it pushes him over the edge because the mana is higher, that he has a statistically higher chance of sustaining that. So that's good for OD, and maybe if it does push him over that edge, you'll see him get picked a lot, especially against like Ember Spirits and stuff like that. Phantom Lancer, he was made a little bit stupider. I don't think that's that significant because he wasn't really spamming that nuke out that much. It was more about the Phantom Rush. Juxtapose, the illusion damage has been increased. That's good. They feel like they're fucking immortal, even with 500% bonus damage that you do to them. So I think this is a necessary change, and if it pushes them over that edge of the thing is, those illusions, if they're at 10% HP, they're still there, right? Like, you use all your spells, you get them to 10% HP, and they're still there. So if this 600% pushes it over that edge of being able to kill those illusions as opposed to leaving them low, then that's perfect, and this hero is going to kind of suck against, like, Earthshakers and stuff. So that's a good change in him, because he's felt kind of bullshit for a long time. Phoenix, level 15 talent, decreased a little bit. Not that big of a deal. Puck, Waning Rift, this spell has always had a very low silence duration at level 1. It's been getting buffed. 2 seconds at level 1 makes him really good against these Queen of Pains and heroes that don't like to get silenced, that he would not otherwise be able to kill in the lane. So I think Puck is actually at a point where maybe as a mid kind of tempo controller, he's really good. I mean, 3.5 second silence, that 0.5 second, that's actually very significant. So Puck is definitely on the cusp of being really, really good. Alright, so Pudge. Meat Hook cooldown was increased from 17 and then scaling down to 11 to 27 and then scaling down to 12. I think the 1 second at the final mark of Meat Hook is not a big deal, but obviously 10 seconds on the fact that he was using the hook to lane harass a lot, that is pretty significant. Definitely makes him not as good of a hero in terms of his laning, which was already kind of way too good. But with that being said, it is a high mana cost spell, so I feel like if you build more into clarities and you just kind of do the slow, methodical meat hooking, it's probably still pretty damn good, especially because I was kind of leaning towards maybe not even maxing Flesh Heap in a lot of games. Like I was going 1 point in Flesh Heap because you get that 1 strength and then it goes to 1.5, so you're actually getting less for leveling it up. So I feel like leveling up the hook now is just really, really good for, you know, cooldown reasons mostly, but then also the burst damage was what I really liked previous to this change. So I think this is just going to make me lean towards going for 1 point in Flesh Heap and then maxing out that meat hook. Pugna, base damage reduced by 2. That's interesting because this hero hasn't been getting picked a significant amount. He's definitely been okay for a long time, but he hasn't been picked like a ton. So I mean, that's a small change. I don't think that nerfs what this hero does right now. I still think this hero is really good and also underrated. Riki, Smokescreen. Cast point has been improved, so I mean that's good. I think this hero's at a pretty good place. I think that any minor change to him could push him over the edge, so this is definitely a hero that you want to look out for. The only issue is dual lanes are a huge focus right now, and this hero is mainly a roamer, and as a carry or any sort of laning hero, he's pretty dog shit. So even if they do this, doesn't change the fact that you have to run him as a roamer position, but with all the buffs, if he gets buffed, I should say, then he's going to be a good roamer. Shadow Shaman, base armor increased. This is a trading hero. He right-clicks you a lot, so that's a good change for him. I think Shadow Shaman is a little underrated. Sniper, level 15, plus 25 shrapnel DPS to plus 35. I see people going for some edgy Necro book build with this hero, and I don't know if it's good, but hey, people are doing it, so maybe we'll see that in the future with these Buffs. Sven, base damage increased by 2. Very slight change to Sven, but that is something that makes him a little bit better in this meta where it feels like these heroes that are just kind of AFK farming heroes, they feel really weak. So adding base damage and allowing him to potentially trade better or go for kills a little bit better in the laning phase definitely makes this hero just a little bit better. And I actually see there's an SEA team that plays this as a 4 role, so this obviously buffs that, because as a 4 role you're going to run around hitting people anyway. TA, psionic trap damage was reduced, so it presumably probably won't kill a wave at an earlier level. I'm not purged, so I'm not going to go into the actual math, but I'm assuming when Valve makes a change like this, it will nerf such that she's not killing an entire wave with a certain level of psionic trap, because it's kind of bullshit that would happen. And then you get to the talent, you kill it anyway. So but this is just a lot less damage. It feels like they put this change in where it does damage, and it was good because it made TA good, but it made her a little too good. Timbersaw, reactive armor. So this is actually a big change, because now he gets just as much armor at level 1 that he got at level 2. And there are thresholds with Timber where you can tank the creep wave behind the tower, where you can tank the tower, where you can tank enemy hits. And this might actually put him to those thresholds earlier, which obviously is very, very significant in a snowballing patch. So this could make Timber very, very good. Dream Protector, Leech Seed mana costs increased pretty significantly. That's great, because this hero was building basically no regen and still destroying the lanes, whereas every other hero has to, so thank God for that. If anything nerfs Tree, I'm happy about it. Visage Gravekeeper's Cloak, the minimum damage has been reduced from 50 to 40. Very minor change. Basically just means if you are a hero who right-clicks for 45, like a Crystal Maiden, you're going to now proc his Gravekeeper's Cloak to fall off, which is fantastic, because it really feels like sometimes this hero is immortal. Weaver, base movement speed reduced from 280 to 275. I think that doesn't matter at all. That's completely insignificant, because this hero just doesn't care about move speed, because he runs around with Sakuchi anyway. So that's a very minor change to him. Windranger, Windrun cooldown increased to 15. It's only a 3-second increase. I really don't think that's that significant to this hero. It makes it so you kind of want to level it to some degree, but really it's not. I mean, most of the time, if she was going to get killed, she would wind run and then die, and then she wouldn't get a second wind run off, period. In terms of laning, she would spam the wind run to trade with people. So maybe it's like a slight nerf to laning, but I still feel like a lot of the time you would just wind run when the enemy hits you, and not necessarily to trade with them. Like, nobody hits Wind Rangers anyway, you know what I mean? Because she has the wind run. So people just kind of choose to use spells on her, or if you commit to her with like 2 heroes or something like that. Basically, what I'm saying is that I don't think that this changes her laning too much, because you would just play around the wind run a little bit differently with the 3-second cooldown. Just do the exact same thing. Witcher Wyvern, Splinter Blast, mana cost increased. That is pretty surprising, because this hero has not been. It's been getting picked a decent amount, but it hasn't been doing all that well. It hasn't felt all that good, so that's a strange change to this hero. But I mean, it is kind of a pain in the ass, because people were building like Tranquil Boots and stuff like that. Now you're probably going to want to go for more mana items. Zeus Nimbus Radius has been reduced from 500 to 450. I think this Nimbus has been really, really strong for really long, so I don't think that makes him bad by any means. I think he's still really good. I think this is just more fair, and it's exactly like what I said for the previous heroes, where they added some new mechanic. When a new mechanic or new hero gets added, typically it feels just like way too strong, and then it gets nerfed, and it kind of feels a lot more reasonable, a lot more like it should be in a game of Dota. So I think that's a pretty necessary change to this hero, and I still think that Zeus is pretty good. Very, very minimal changes, basically, in terms of completely nerfing these heroes, and I think that was pretty intentional from Valve. They just wanted to do a patch where it was kind of these slight changes, not necessarily to what made a hero broken, but more so nerfs to other things about those heroes that it felt like with how good they were, they shouldn't have these extra things, you know what I mean? Like, basically, Windrunner, the power shot, does way too much damage. The Shackle is so good at level 1, so instead of nerfing those 2 things, nerf the Windrun so that you have to kind of pick and choose your skill points a little bit better, add more of a skill cap to it, and I do like that. I do like that in terms of, gameplay changes. I think that makes things very interesting. So anyway, thank you so much for watching, guys. I hope this was entertaining at the very least, or useful or helpful in any way, and hopefully I'll see you guys in another video.